You make that statement and then you go live.
Just go live.
So it's just kind of like,
I don't care.
Let me throw something to you idiots over here. And hopefully y'all will take it up so everybody will be writing into the show today.
Let's just say as many inflammatory things as we can to start. Are we live now?
We are live.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, wow, we've got so much to talk about today. Kicking things off, if you hang around long enough, you're going to figure out what Enneagram type Pastor Mac is. Maybe I should save that for the very, very end. That'll really keep people watching, right?
Yeah.
How's that for a teaser? But you were, so before the show, you were psychoanalyzing me. I thought this was really...
You said you felt scattered.
I'm just so distracted and scattered.
Well, why are you distracted and scattered?
Why?
What do you think?
I should be on that couch over
No,
there.
better yet for today, how do you feel? What are your feelings?
How do you feel about that? Well, today I feel tired, Pastor. Why do I feel tired?
Why do you feel tired?
I feel it could have something to do with, the 4 kids that wake up in the night.
Okay, so it's not your fault then
It's
that
not
you
my
are tired.
fault.
No,
Oh.
it's not your fault. It's these 4 kids.
So I'm just a victim.
You are a
Oh,
victim.
finally. I've gone through 6 counselors, and now finally you're telling me that I'm a victim.
Listen, if you've gone through 6 counselors and I'm the first to tell you that you're the victim, I want to know where you dug the other 5 up. Because everybody's the victim today. Well, I'm the victim.
I'm the victim, right. It's
You know,
everybody
and
else's fault.
my situation is worse than everybody else's.
Oh my gosh. Lord deliver us from that mentality.
That is where we live in America today, or in Western civilization today. Not just America. It's all of Western civilization.
All right, well, let's focus on the positive. So yesterday we had with us David Thomas.
Yep. Very, very popular children's counselor.
Yes, and he was, and you could just tell, like, just in his manner on stage, like he has this inviting presence, especially for the kids. My kids were really listening to him, although, like, he was 15 minutes in, and my daughter, Harper, was just like, so when does Pastor Mac start to preach?
Listen, remind me to give that girl something next time I see her.
When is Pastor going up there? Well, I think she uses that as her way of marking time during the service. She's trying to say, how much longer do I have?
When is Pastor Mac going to shut up?
That's right. When is he going to sit down? When is he going to make everybody stand up? Because then I know I only have 5 more minutes till I get to go to the bathroom. That's the kids' thing these days with sitting through this. Oh, it's like, Dad, I have to go to the bathroom really bad. I'm like, hold it. You're going to hold it.
Boy, my mom did the same. My mom called it the kidney parade on Sunday morning. She just called it the kidney parade. She said, you are not going to be a part of the kidney parade,
Oh,
she
yeah,
wouldn't let you chew chewing gum in church.
That's right.
Well,
we break that rule. I'm sorry.
And really wouldn't let me draw much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wouldn't, you can sit there and you can pay attention. Or you can at least look like you're doing it.
Well, I think that the kids have been drawing a lot.
See, I'm the victim too. I need counseling.
You do need to. Let's go to this couch over here. Tell me about your parents. What were they like?
Oh gosh.
So anyway, David Thomas, he did a seminar after church as well, which I've heard was very helpful to many people.
Good.
And that was cool. I think it's a victory for us just focusing on the family.
Yeah.
So I should trademark that. Focus on the family. That feels like a good thing to say.
Yeah. You may get sued over that.
So it was a day to focus on we had the kids choir with us.
Yeah, they were great. They're always great. They're fun to do. Now it really shocked me how y'all tuned up that song.
In Christ Alone.
Yeah, I love the song, and boy, I'd never expected it to come out like that.
That was something else, man. It was Jamie Willis that found that arrangement.
Is that right?
When I was listening to it, and I was kind of into it, and then it wasn't until we got to rehearsal I was like, wow, this is really different. Like this is, like I don't know. Kind
I
of
wasn't
hard
expecting
rock,
it. I'd never heard
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, the kids choir is done singing, and you get up there and you're like, thanks, kids choir, and then your grandson is on the end.
Yeah, I'm pulling on him to get up.
You just put him in a headlock.
I do.
And I'm like, for all of our visitors, this is his grandson.
Yeah.
He doesn't headlock just random
Oh
children.
yeah, I headlock all these kids around here. I love it. They love it.
That was so funny.
I love that. You know, at that age, they're so much fun. You know, they don't expect you to do. They expect me to be, you know,
That's
prim
right.
and proper.
Yeah, right.
So I love to go up and just grab them.
Yeah, you gotta break the expectation a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons I always like this time, you know, because people they might see us as, you know, so
Stated,
serious.
yeah.
Just so always was we're in corporate worship mode, and that is important. That is a, you know, serious time, but here we get to cut loose and talk about the Cowboys and that sort of thing.
And they won. Hey, they've won 4 games with that new quarterback.
I tell you,
I
man.
kept telling them, Romo is not a championship player.
You mean Dak? Dak,
No,
right.
well, Romo before Dak,
it
and then
wasn't.
Dak is.
Yeah.
It's just, you know. But they've won these last 4 games.
Well, the controversy's coming, right? Because when Dak gets healthy, they're going to have to decide whether they go back to him.
Well,
or
there's
just
no
keep this.
decision to make. Well, just put him in for 3 plays, and Dak will be hurt again. You know, that's an easy way to solve that issue.
Jared's laughing so he doesn't cry because his beloved Denver Broncos are just doing terrible. Broncos are not having a good year. Of course, my Ravens completely blew another big lead yesterday. So anyway, it was a tough one. But as usual, Pastor, the Cowboys are. So the Cowboys win. You always win, Pastor. That's part of who this Enneagram says that you are. You're the powerful, dominating type.
Is that what it says?
So, I don't know. I'm just reading the stuff here. It says that's what the 8 is. Are you an 8? Should we
No.
talk about this
No.
now?
Well, I don't know what I am, and evidently the thing doesn't know what I am.
Yeah, because it gave you 3. Well,
It gave me 3 choices.
So David Thomas mentioned the Enneagram yesterday. I'd heard of this before. I'm like, all right, so Pastor, let's take our personality types, and we'll just see. We'll talk about this. It'll be kind of fun. And so we took it was a free test. There's lots of these Enneagram tests you can take that are, you know, that you pay the money and all that stuff. But we're sticking it to the man. We're not paying any money for these tests.
No, I didn't.
But
I wouldn't have done it.
The cheap test, it says, well, it's not very specific, so we're just going to give you 3 numbers at the end that you can choose from.
Yeah.
And you told me, you said if you got the number 666, you were going to throw your computer.
I was going to throw the computer on the floor and start stomping on it. Yeah. I can tell you. So I wasn't anywhere around that. Well, no.
What did you get? You said you
I was a 9 or a 6, I think, or a 3. Now, here's the thing to me.
All right, tell me.
They don't know. They're giving
They
you,
don't.
here are
They
3
don't.
possibilities.
I know.
You pick which one you think you are.
I know.
Now, that's the hokiest bunch of mess I've ever seen. Before I took my first doctorate, I had to have several of these tests. I had to have the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory.
Yeah, that was a big one back then.
And then you had to have that other one. I can't remember what it was.
Myers-Briggs? Or the
Myers-Briggs. I did the Myers-Briggs.
DISC.
You did all of these kind
Yeah,
of things.
had to.
And then we've done these other things. Even Tim LaHaye. In fact, I think Tim LaHaye, to me, that little book that he wrote on personalities.
That's the 4 cholera. Or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
choleric,
Yeah.
sanguine, what is it? Phlegmatic, and what's the last one? I can't
Oh,
remember.
I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, I
Acidic.
thought the one he did on that, to me, was pretty great. And I know where I always come out on the sanguine side of that.
Sanguine side of life.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you're getting at is exactly right. We have all these tools. God has made our brains it's seemingly infinite complexity. We all have unique personalities, and I think these different tools, like if you use them right, they give you some language to help describe, all right, these are the strengths and or the struggles or weaknesses that are just unique to me, and it helps me be a better minister or in your job or in your family.
I like the one that where you're an otter or you're a golden retriever.
Yeah, I saw
or
that
you're
one time. Have you
you're
ever
a-
taken that one before? There's an look that one up. The otter personality type. I want to
the
see that.
lion, or I can't remember what those were.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, you kind of bleed over into the others. Honestly,
right.
There are parts of this that are also a part of you. Part of this is a part of you. You know. So.
Well, you got to be careful with it. You don't want to just say, well, the Enneagram, for instance, you got 9 numbers. Well, well, this is the number that I am, so I can't act like that, and don't accuse me of being that because I'm this, and you're like, well.
Nobody is just that.
But
We are, as you said, very complex.
Right.
God made us that way. So, for me, every time I've taken that, I am almost dead on top. Who I am at home is who I am at work. So it's almost dead on top. So I don't have, if I can't be me, I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go somewhere else. Okay. I have got to be who I am. That was the one thing Dr. Criswell told me when I met him before I was called to First Dallas. He called me over and he said, I want to pray for you. And I went over and I knelt down beside him and he put his hands on my head and he leaned down and he said, you just be you. I'll never forget that. And what he was saying, don't try to be me. Don't try to be somebody. Just be who you are. Yes. Let God take you, who your personality is, and use you. So I don't know why people feel like that they cannot be themselves. God made them unique. Maybe it's because in life they've not been accepted for who they are, or they feel like I've not been accepted for who I am.
Well, is that not connected to this idea, and Brother David talked about this yesterday, what happens to all of us as we approach puberty, that 10 or 11 range, and you start to become self-conscious.
Yeah.
You start to see actions that you take, even the posture of yourself, and you start to see how you might be perceived.
Yeah.
In the eyes
You know, that's why I thought it was interesting when he brought out that he called a child, and he pointed that out. It was a child. He didn't call a man. He didn't call a woman. He didn't call a young married. He didn't call a senior adult. He called a child. And I think, it starts my brain to thinking, okay, well, why did he call the child? And he made the comment, because around 11 or 12 or so, we lose our or 10 or 11, we lose our sense of self-consciousness. I think it has to do with the fact of the way a child accepts.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, just a child just accepts. They accept what you say. They accept who you are. They accept themselves. Faith seems to be so easy for them.
And they're so honest about the way they're feeling as well. And as a part of that, they're able to learn so much more.
Yeah.
Because they're not so guarded. They say, well, this is actually how I feel. I'm offering this to you. Like, can you learn from that? Can you teach me? Can you speak into this? There's this openness there. I see this with my own kids all the time. They're very young. So what Pastor's talking about is where Brother David took us yesterday, which is those first 6 verses of Matthew chapter 18. Lots of times people refer to Matthew chapter 18. They think about that passage. If your brother sins against you in church discipline, all this and that.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is the context of this chapter, the context of that. Then he comes to stumbling blocks. Right. If you call, who are stumbling blocks. Woe to that man through whom the stumbling block comes. In other reference, Jesus is talking about causing one of these little ones to stumble, but he's not talking about a child in that instance. He's talking about somebody who is nascent in the faith, a person who is young in the faith. And so he talks about that. He talks about the 99 plus 1, this discipline and prayer, and then he gets to that long stretch on forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And then in the very next chapter, he comes to the whole issue of divorce. So it's kind of interesting the context in which this whole thing is put into.
It is very interesting. I think that's probably why he yesterday took this just where it was with regards to talking about children. Verse 4 says, whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Now I can't remember contextually where that is with them with the disciples arguing about who is the greatest. Mm-hmm. But you got to know that in their minds they would have thought like, oh, well, dang it, we blew it, because here we are arguing about us being the greatest. And then here Jesus says, no, it's this. If you're humble like this child, that's what makes you the greatest in the kingdom of heaven.
Well, then, this comes in chapter 19 where Jesus brings the children up and he blesses them. Some children were brought to him so that he might lay hands on them and pray. The disciples, I don't think they get anything out of it. Because on their way into the upper room, which is a few chapters. Yes, they're on their way there to the upper room, the night of the Passover. Christ is going to be rested later that night. They're arguing over who's the greatest.
It's incredible. It's incredible. But is that's the propensity of the human heart, sin and pride. Even saw that in the Enneagram. I think it said that one of my suggestions was the achiever. Ooh, driven, success-oriented, image-conscious. We worship pastors are very image-conscious. That sort of thing. So I can see a path where they still didn't get it. But man, that lesson is so important. It makes me look at just the children in the church in a totally different way, thinking about their innocence and their humility, and not even knowing that they're humble.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're not thinking about themselves in that way.
Right, right.
That's fascinating. Oh, if the Lord would just give me an attitude like that, I would love that.
Jesus is in Capernaum when he does this.
His hometown?
Yes, where he chooses to go and live.
Right,
he goes to Capernaum. The interesting thing is, you see in verse 6, it says, "Whoever causes one of these little ones to believe in me to stumble, it'd be better for him to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck." Well, Capernaum was the center of the making of millstones.
Is that right?
Yeah. In fact, you can see them there. The whole area is covered in this black basalt rock.
Oh, yeah.
Volcanic rock,
Yeah.
very hard, very dense. And they made these, and they shipped them all over the Roman Empire. The Romans would take them and ship them all over the empire. And what they did was they ground wheat, they ground olives, and they ground grapes with those things. So what were the three things that they had in the Mediterranean world? Wheat, olives, and grapes.
Yep.
And so it was a very important center for an export. So everybody there would have known. Jesus probably turned around and pointed over here.
Here's a millstone.
Here's one of these great big millstones. They're about this thick. They weigh a ton each.
Yeah, they're huge.
And they've got this big hole that's in the center of them where you either fit it over a pole, or you put a pole in it and you turn it around. So it's kind of interesting that Jesus would. You don't ever think about those things, but most likely Jesus just pointed over here, and he's right there. Capernaum's on the sea, and he said, "It'd be better if we just tie this around your neck and take you out there and dump you in the sea."
That's better than what's going to happen to you in eternity.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
I love that, because, and I'm sure for you as a preacher, you got to love that too, because you're watching the master work at just finding an object lesson, something that's right there,
Yep.
and this is immediately applicable. We all know what we're talking about. I'm speaking directly to the culture around me, and I'm giving you a lesson that you won't soon
When I'm in Capernaum, of course, the synagogue is there. That's pretty interesting to see. But I take them over because there is this huge millstone and this olive press that is there. And I take them over and I read this passage to them and I say, look what Jesus is doing. This place makes these things. There's probably standing close to a shop that made them. He's just pointing all of this out. We just put that around your neck, take you right out there and throw you in the sea. And it's it kind of makes sense that he just didn't dream that up out of his head, He's making an application of where they live, what's here.
That is a fierce warning. That's scary.
It is.
Is the synagogue there the one that's made out of the black rock? Because it's
No, it's not made out of that same rock. It's made out of limestone.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a dirty white, pale.
I heard about this one synagogue or something that was built out of that black rock.
I can't. I'm trying to think of where that is, and I can't remember seeing.
Does it exist though?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll have to look that one.
I don't know, but that rock is just all over it. That's what that whole mountainside is up there.
Maybe somebody in the comments can figure that out for us. Well, look at that. So
I've seen one made out of skulls.
Get out
a little,
of here.
yeah, not a synagogue, but a chapel.
Made out of
In
human
Rome,
skulls?
yeah, in Rome, it was the Capuchin monks. And they made it out of the bones and the skulls of all of the
martyrs,
priests that
okay.
Monks that had lived there. Used to could go in it for free. Now they charge you like 15 euros to get in the thing. But it's eerie, it's fascinating, and you walk out of there and you just kind of want to shake like a dog and get it all off of you.
I'm thinking that just right now.
But everything in the place is made out of bone. The whole place is, and it's not far from out of the walls around Rome. Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt because my brother and I, when we visited Rome, we went to the catacombs. And obviously, this is where the early church, especially under persecution, had to go to even have their church services.
Yeah.
And that had an eerie feeling.
It was. Yeah, the smell, you never get it out of you.
It really is different.
Yeah.
And I guess they don't use it for burial anymore. It's more just a historical site now.
Yeah.
But that was so strange. Also, just that's a cool illustration. If you think about like the light of the gospel, it can shine brightly anywhere, even in the midst of the dead.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It is good illustration. You could also say, just some churches are like that. They're just as dead as they can be.
Yikes! A church just built out of dead. Oh, that reminded me. So I was trying to explain that. I guess we'll finish up with this because we're starting to go long. But I was trying to explain to my son the other night the concept of the Holy Spirit living in the believer, which of course is a difficult thing to grasp. I mean, I don't know that you ever fully grasp it, that God himself in his Spirit comes to live in the new believer and makes that person a temple of the Holy Spirit. So I was explaining this to my son and how this church building is not God's house, so to speak. There's a sense in which it is, but it's not God's house in the way that the Davidic temple was God's house. Yeah. I said, no, we're God's house. People are God's house. And he's like, oh, okay, got it. And then later I hear him telling my wife, did you know that God's house is just built out of human bodies? Like there's just stacked up human bodies. He's 4 years old. Stacked up human bodies are the walls, and then that's the door. And I'm just like, okay, we've got a long road ahead of us.
That's like the night that Trey and Courtney were little. They were still in car seats, and I'm trying to read a book. I'm in seminary, and I'm trying to read a book, and Debbie's going into Walmart, and I'm just sitting out there in the car running, and the dome light is on because I'm reading, and they want to know, where does God live? And I just point up. I keep reading. And I don't hear anything out of them, and I turn around and look at them, and they're staring at the dome light. I said, no, he doesn't live he's not in there, So you have to, see, hey, unless you become like a child. They believe it.
They do believe it.
In their own mind, in their own way, they understand. So
I need to give my son another lesson in pneumatology.
Probably.
Son,
it would help.
Remedial pneumatology, son. Here's your first lesson. Anything else we should say? We didn't talk about... You're preaching
Well, I'm
Exodus
preaching
this
Exodus,
week.
Chapter 2. We'll get to when Moses grows up.
Oh, that's good.
Grows up, kills a man.
Oh boy. Are you preaching this Wednesday night? Or are you back
Yes,
next
I am.
Okay, so you're going back to Joseph this Wednesday?
I'm probably going to try to finish Joseph up. We're going to get him in the coffin, I think, this Wednesday night. It's like the guy that wrote the song Hokey Pokey, They put him in the casket, and they turned around, his left foot was out. They put it back in, they turned back around, and his left. So we're going to try to get him in the coffin this week.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
The guy that invented throat lozenges died recently.
Did he?
Yeah, there was no coffin at the funeral.
Oh, gosh. What a day, what a day. All right.